Every time we buy a Chinese product, they clone another Drew.
It ends tonight. He cannot keep killing us in all these intros. We got to put it to him. Well, there's 3 of us now. I say we just bum rush him. He can't take us all.
Hi,
I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows what he said either. Anyways, I want to take a peek.
Thermal imagery has changed the DNA of conflict forever. But there is one elephant in the room when it comes to most thermal optics like this RH25, and that is some of the best and most affordable comes from China.
The problem with that is China sells to everyone, us and our enemies. And most recently, they sold thermal optics to Russia, and the US took that as an opportunity to impose sanctions on Chinese thermal optic manufacturers. Between this and the precedent set with the TikTok ban and the impending drone ban, the stage is being set to restrict products like this from guys like us, all under the guise of national security. So what about American thermal manufacturers? Well, the moment a government contract hits their inbox, priority goes to that, and the civilian market takes the back burner, making American-made thermal optics unavailable, on top of the fact that they're significantly more expensive and have outdated performance. So that leaves us as American citizens between a rock and a hard place. We're in an impossible position. We either buy affordable, top-tier thermal from China, or we go broke trying to buy American-made, outdated, overpriced thermal optics from companies who love our government, but do not support us as the people.
So that's what takes us back to these thermal optics that are attainable by most American and nationwide citizens who just want to practice their God-given right. As that technology builds, we have a responsibility to stay on top of it and become proficient with it. But that proficiency leads us to our next question and the point of the video. With this very well priced RH25 as it continues to come down in price, what is the best use case for it, and is it even worth your money?
Guys, content like this is free for you guys because of sponsors like Modlite. A year ago, I gave them an idea, they ran with it and actually put it into production, and it's called this mod button snap. It's just a pressure switch that snaps on and off, which is pretty handy because when you run laser aiming devices with night vision and stuff, you usually have to back this off so that you can actually change your battery. But this makes it super simple. You just snap it off. We don't make any extra money on this, but it's an awesome product. Check it out, Modlite. Speaking of laser aiming devices, Steel Industries is our go-to place for night vision, and if you're looking to get into the night vision game or any of the accessories, you can hit them up. 5% discount code on everything that they sell that is not on sale. And also 100 Concepts. They make a ton of stuff. This is a kill flash on the front of this EOTech. Josh, how about you tell a little bit more?
Got it, man. 100 Concepts makes a plethora of different products ranging from nylon goods, things that go on your helmet, your backpack, all the way to light covers, kill flashes, or even optic covers for your LPVO or RH25. So go check out 100 Concepts. We have a link in the description, as well as the Sonoran Desert Institute. If you guys are detecting and running around in an international milsim game, you need to make sure that that pea shooter is working as intended. And you can do a lot of that work at home in your garage, but you want to make sure that you're doing everything right. So go get some education on gunsmithing from the Sonoran Desert Institute. Link is in the description. Reach out for more information there.
As a normal guy on an average income, yes, I know the company's been successful, but everything's getting reinvested back into the company. We're still, paid like normal people. I want a thermal unit that can do everything. If I'm going to invest that much money, I want it to do everything very well. So the RH25 definitely checks those boxes for me. There's other units that would as well, but I just really like this one because it's great to use as a handheld, so just scanning normally. It's great to use helmet mounted, which is great for navigating and being able to pick up signatures at a distance as you're on the move. And it's also really good whenever it comes to shooting, whether you clamp it on and use it as the primary optic, which is called standalone mode, or you clip it in front of an LPVO, which is clip-on mode, which is how we actually prefer to run it. Now, whenever you're shooting with it, as with all optics, you have to zero it. And I've seen all over the internet people saying, oh yeah, I just threw it on and it worked perfect. That was not our experience at all. As nice as this unit was, it was an absolute nightmare to zero. You see, if you try to zero this by the book, literally using the manual, you're in for a headache. It was written by engineers, not end users. So for example, when you finally get to page 22 of the complicated manual, you learn about zeroing the reticle in standalone mode as if you did not have this in front of an LPVO. The problem is, 1-0 does not hold for all of your distances because first you have to collimate the unit. And collimating the unit is not talked about until page 29 in one tiny paragraph, and nowhere does it mention that it's important to do this first. Well, it is important to do this first. If you don't, you are going to have major problems, and we did. When we zeroed the reticle on the thermal unit at 200 meters, we were hitting 10-inch steel at 200 meters consistently. Then we transitioned to a 100-meter target, and we were off by 10-foot wide right, 4-foot high. It made no sense because the unit wasn't collimated. Collimating is the act of bringing things parallel. So once we accessed the hidden menu to collimate the unit, we were good to go. Smooth sailing after that.
So a question that I had was, does this actually hold zero if I collimate it and zero it to my optic and then throw it on my head and then back on the rifle, or use it as a handheld and back on the rifle? Because I want to make sure that this system is actually going to return to zero, because as we know, this does need to be zeroed. So here's what we did. We shot 3 groups of 5 at 100 yards after confirming that everything is zeroed. We took the thermal off after every time. The ammo that we were using is Mark 262, 77 grain, Black Hills OTM, and the groups that we got are pretty interesting. So here's the results. No thermal. We had this group of 5. It's also worth mentioning that we have a tornado warning this evening, and there is quite a bit of wind out here that's gusting at different rates. Group of 5, and then over here, group of 5, we had all but one impacting the hot hands. And that is really hard to see with a magnification on the thermal. More on that later. Pulled it off, and then once again, these shifted a little bit right. Could be the shooter, but it's probably the wind, just because we had more or less the same group. Looks like 3 of those rounds are touching, and then 2 are right as well. So we're getting the same results. That's a positive. Group here a little bit left, and then our thermal went on, which resulted in 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a little one that snuck underneath there, but that's not a bad group, again, considering that we are magnifying and intensifying those pixels inside of the LPVO. Finally, this group of 5, that's pretty good shooting for shooting relatively quickly at 100. And then once again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and probably 1 a little bit low. Is the thermal a precision device? That probably depends on you, the shooter, the gun, the ammunition, and then we start to get into how well can you actually see when you are intensifying the pixels on here.
Does thermal give you a superpower detection range? Well, the short answer is it depends. As you can tell from this footage, it is actually kind of hard to detect Josh once we get to 200 meters. At 100 is pretty easy, 200 only if he's moving. At beyond 500, we basically can't tell anything. In fact, thermal is actually harder to detect someone depending on the environmental factors. And that's the big point here, is depending on the environment, it actually shines or is a hindrance. So knowing all the environmental factors that can affect your thermal imaging is very important. And Arcane has done a great job of displaying this, showing what thermal looks like in the fog, in the rain, in high humidity, in low humidity, on a clear day, when it's hot, when it's cold. They have a lot of great videos, and we've been buddies with those guys for years on what you can experience depending on the environment. And while you can change the sensitivity and the contrast of this thermal unit, you have to know how to do that and be able to do that on the fly, which is not always fast or ideal. So just like when you put on night vision and you think you have a superpower, but you actually don't, the same is true with thermal. Sometimes, yes, it is an absolute superpower. In fact, most of the time it is. But there are times when it can give you a false sense of security. I know everyone likes to talk about thermal mitigation devices and thermal blankets, and those things are awesome. But in some cases and in some environments, you don't even need them. So knowing what you look like under thermal during different times of day can actually be a really good thing for you, and the environment alone can mask you. Once the sun sets, there's a time period where the environment's temperature starts to lower and Josh's body temperature doesn't change at all, and that's when you really start to see the superpower of something like this come out. With a setup like this, you can magnify two different ways, with your LPVO or with the thermal unit itself. In both cases, you're just zooming up on the same set of pixels, so it kind of looks the same either way. Now with this unit, they actually recommend you not go above 6 power. In our experience, you probably don't want to go above 4. Once you go above 4 power, magnifying on an LED screen, you really start to lose any ability to actually target identify. Where it does come in handy is actually those like really fine, precise shots at distance and being able to put that whole thermal image in your reticle. So with the limitations of magnification in mind, what if you just don't have a magnified optic and you're running this through just a red dot or a hollow sight like an EOTech? Now, before anybody freaks out, I have really good trigger discipline. So even though this was completely loaded and I had my finger on the trigger and off safe the whole time, Josh was totally safe. Just kidding. We did strip the bolt and any ability for this thing to fire, no rounds in it. So I know I could have just left that out and it would have been great for the algorithm, but I mean, come on, I can't kill my business partner yet.
In front of a red dot, this doesn't work at all. If all you have is just a red dot, your thermal is way too far away from your eye unless you actually have a magnifier of some kind, in which case it actually works really well. It's hitting that happy medium like you would want on an LPVO, where you get some magnification but not so much that you're losing detail inside of that LED screen. Now, when we threw this on and shot at 200 yards on a 10-inch piece of steel, we were happily surprised with all the zeroing and collimation issues we had previously to see that it dropped on and held 0. So that is a huge win and a huge plus for this. Now, is that going to be the case for you? Can't say. You're gonna have to play with that yourself, but I would be very happy to have an 18-inch and a 13.7 or 10.3, whatever your combination is, where you know that it will run well. Just keep in mind, if you are running a setup like this, you're gonna have to have this magnifier flipped over on that side. And then you wouldn't have any ability to actually use this in a 1x magnification unless you had another solution like putting this on a hinge, a flip to side, or even just buying an offset red dot and dropping that on as well. Now, it's also worth noting that if you were to go up in magnification all the way to something like a 3:18, this Leupold Mark V, starting at that 3x magnification and only going up, it's just really not the best solution. You're gonna have to spend more money on a higher quality, more expensive thermal to make something like this system work. At the end of the day, I'm very happy with this setup, but when you're running and gunning with it, hold on. Yeah, I can't even find it. It works in this configuration, but there are a lot of limitations because you are forced to use that magnifier. So if I was running a gun like this, I'd probably leave this as a mount where you could throw it on if you had to. Optimally would be a flip to side, although you are potentially increasing your chance of losing 0. You'd have to play with that a little bit yourself. At the end of the day, I'd probably use this configuration with just a handheld or helmet mounted.
The handheld thermal, that is really where a unit like this shines in my opinion, because as you saw from the last video that we did on bridging at night vision and thermal, movement with thermal is very difficult. It's more of a stationary tool. In other words, you move to a position, you stop and you scan. Or if you're walking around patrolling, you're able to pick stuff up if you're scanning slowly, or you just stop, take a look around, continue on after you've looked for the heat signatures. Being able to use it as a handheld unit while you're navigating under night vision, which is significantly easier than navigating under thermal, is the play. And with the way that we have this set up, you can just clip it in and do it on the go from the helmet, because you never want to be hunting through your rifle to navigate or spot things. The fact that I can change the color palette on this so quickly and so easily is definitely one of the reasons why I love this. You can go from white hot to black hot to red hot, which is actually my personal favorite whenever we're out doing milsim LARPing. But then they also have predator vision.
Hey guys, Dr. Disrespect here.
Oh, that was pretty savage. We probably should cut that, Nick. In my professional LARPing opinion, this is best used if you're a solo guy, handheld, or clipped onto a helmet, and once you spot something, you can take it off, throw it on the rifle, and you're good to go. On a team, thermal becomes a really big deal. And this is really important for guys who, they look at their crew of people and they're like, hey, everyone has nods, I need to get nods too, because nods has been like the cool thing for the past 5 years. Well, now, if a crew of guys with nods don't have thermal and they come across other guys in the milsim game that have the same tech, if they don't have thermal, they're actually at a disadvantage. So being the one guy in your crew that has thermal not only amplifies your individual capabilities, but also the capabilities of your entire team. Ideally, what this would look like, let's say you're in a group of 6 guys, the guy in the lead has a thermal that is clipped on to the helmet, and he's navigating and he's making sure there's no heat signatures popping up as they're going, taking breaks every so often to stop, scan, listen, your sills, but with the thermal. Ideally, the guy in the rear also has thermal on a helmet, so he's constantly scanning behind and around as you stop. Second man and fourth man could have actually rifle mounted thermal, so the moment the guy in front of them or the guy behind them calls something out, they're able to orient to it really quickly and put shots with thermal on target. And the middle dude, if he's rocking handheld and he's just always like popping it up, or as you stop, he's an extra person to scan, to me, that is like the ideal setup. Now, I know not everyone can afford super expensive thermal, so again, just being the one guy in your crew that has it, you just become a major asset and you've made your whole group far more powerful than you were before. So is this good enough for you to spend your well-earned money on? Hard for me to say for you, it has been for us. I will say this, it should never come at the expense of not also having plenty of food, water, comms, ammo, all stored up and ready to go. This is a perfect upgrade for someone who is already squared away and wants to take their skills, or I guess their skill set, to the next level and their capabilities to the next level. And obviously this is great for someone who needs a top tier visual detection tool for predators, both the 4-legged and the 2-legged kind.
Also, we're not saying everyone needs to have at least one of these, maybe multiple in their arsenal. No, you should have a team and a community, because that community needs to come first. And then, like Drew mentioned, water, food, ammunition, the firearms, accessories that go along with it, and then you can start to get into some of this. But if 5 friends all go out and buy the exact same one of these, that's really cool, but you're not diversifying your capability. So maybe someone needs to go get a drone and learn to fly it. Someone else can pick up comms and help everyone else get squared away and carry different capabilities in different directions.
While this video focused on the RH25, you should know that there's a lot of other thermal units that are cheaper, more expensive, that can all kind of compete in terms of the capability that it does for you. Like if you have a thermal unit that you can handheld, you can put on your helmet, or that you can put on your rifle, it doesn't matter if it's this particular unit, your capabilities skyrocket. Now with that being said, does this one do too much? I don't think so. I think it actually does all the things I want it to do decently well.
Yeah, and as with any system that's going to be capable of doing a lot of different things, you're going to have to learn that system. So I had that complaint a little bit. It's trying to do too much in one package, but the more time that you spend with it, you'll learn the menu, you'll learn the settings, you'll learn the buttons. It starts to get very simplified, and you start to appreciate, wow, this thing is very capable for the price point.
And speaking of the price point, normal pricing on this is around $5,500. I know it goes on sale. Right now it's on sale at Arcane, our buddies over there. We're not getting a kickback from this at all. We're just trying to tell you guys about a good deal. They're about $4,000, so they're $1,500 off right now. That is an incredible price for tech like this. The only thing that I think would be cool is if it could be a little bit less expensive, maybe they could delete a lot of the extra stuff, because there's so many options in the menu of this thing that we did not even touch, that you can go and just look at all the specs, and it's incredible. I wonder if they could delete some of those and drop the cost down even more, but I know from our whole Holostone experiment, deleting some of those software capabilities don't change the price of the tech itself, so I don't know if that would actually happen, but that would be cool if they did.
And to wrap this all up, guys, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have something like this on an 11.5 with a red dot, or an 18-inch with an LPVO, or if we're talking about, again, drones or water purification or fitness. You need to dedicate yourself to becoming proficient in that thing that you are setting out with a goal. So find what it is that you need to tackle next. And again, that may just be waking up early in the morning, reading your Bible, drinking extra water throughout the day, getting exercise, or learning how to function some of the tools that you already have. Go practice, get more experience, and become very proficient and deadly with the tools that you already own, and then research and educate yourself on some more of the things that you are looking forward to getting in the near future. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys want to support us, there's a couple ways you can do it. Patreon gets this content first, They also get all of their questions answered before anything else. You can also go over to our website and just pick up a little bit of merchandise like hats or coffee cups, windbreakers or t-shirts, whatever it is that you guys are interested in. So again, thank you guys very, very much for watching. We appreciate that, and we'll see you next week.
Oh!